Okay, continuing on with number 11. This involves a photographer wanting to arrange 4 kids in a row so we can take their pictures. I'm gathering from reading this that nothing matters but the color of their, I think he said sweaters. So we don't care about boy, girl, tall, short, nothing like that. Just the color of their sweaters. He listed specifically a blue and a red sweater, but they're all wearing different colors, so I chose to call them green and purple just because they all start with different letters, so I can use R, B, G, and P when I do this stuff. Gonna fess up, this is my second time running through this one. I'm trying to give you all different numbers, slight variations on these. And the last one I said, well, let's do 5 colors, and it wasn't an issue. It ended up doing arrangements of 4 objects. There's 24 different ways of doing it. Arrangements of 3, there's only 6. That was kind of almost unmanageable because I didn't want to write 24 arrangements. And this is probably simplest to solve this with just the 6 arrangements. Number of ways of arranging 3 things. We have 4 things, except when you can simplify these, do so. They tell you in this that the red sweater kid wants to be immediately to the right of the kid in the blue sweater. So that means that we don't have a B and an R, we have a BR. All right, so it's just they are that way, right? So we're kind of in a way, we're not arranging 4 positions, we're arranging 3 positions. Because if I put the B down at the far left, I know the R has to go beside him. Wherever B is, R is attached that way. It's as if they are glued together. So it's kind of like one kid in a sweater. That sweater just happens to be blue-red. So when you can do that, do so. And we're going to do that. There are times you might have to take into consideration, like if somebody, we really have 4 kids, if the kid in the green sweater had to be there, well, then we know we couldn't put the blue in here because that kid's no longer the second one in the arrangement, right? So it sometimes causes issues with some of the other constraints. It won't with this one, right? So if we look at it, we don't have red, blue, green, and purple. We have, I'm just going to call it BR, G, and P. And if I'm looking at only 3 items, I ought to be able to do every permutation of the 3 item, right? That shouldn't be an issue. If I just do a lowercase a, b, c, how many ways to arrange this? Well, if I'm starting with A, there's no other options once I write down an A. It's either got to be a B or a C for the next one if I only have 3 items, right? So once I do that, same thing here. If I start with a B, it's either got to be an A or a C. So only 2 possibilities. So if I'm doing 6 things, or 3 things, I get 6 possibilities, and it's pretty easy to do. So I'm just going to do the 6 arrangements of these. We could start with blue-red, which means our second one is going to be green, third one's going to be purple. And I'm sure you're realizing what I mean is we got the blue sweater, then the red sweater, then the green sweater, then the purple sweater. It's still 4 kids. I'm just treating those 2 as if they're glued together, Velcroed together, would probably be a better way of looking at it. Blue-red, Velcroed, purple, green, second arrangement. Maybe I start with the green one, and then the blue-red, and then the purple. Maybe I start with the green one, and the next one was the purple, and then the blue-red. This one won't work for us because it puts the red one on the end. Red one won't go on an end, so we're going to have to cross this one off. Doesn't work, right? Well, that's the only ways to start with the green. Our other possibility, start with the purple. Then it might be blue-red, and then green. Maybe we start with the purple, and the next one wasn't the blue-red, it was the green, and then the blue-red. But just like before, oh, we can't do that because that puts the red on the end. These are your 4 possibilities. The correct answer is 4. So look for those opportunities to simplify these things, not just in combinatorics, counting methods, these type things. You know how many ways to do arrangements. In general terms, and they give you a physics question, you're doing a block, and they're stuck together, treat them as one block, just makes things easier. So you can simplify your system. It's generally a good idea. And that makes this pretty easy to do because you can write out every possibility, get the 4, and that would be what this is. So that was number 11, the easiest way to write the arrangements. As a general thing, I would try to find some way of doing arrangements of everything. Like, I'm just going to write out Suppose I'm doing arrangements of any three of these, right? You want to get a pattern. One way of doing any three is to say, well, I'm deciding which one of the four to eliminate. But if I want to arrange, I'm just going to do the four arrangements and start it. If I do any four arrangements, I want to get a pattern. So if I start with A, I think, what's the next one? Well, if it's B, that leaves a C or a D, or a D or a C, only possibilities. Maybe my second letter wasn't the B, maybe it was the C. That would leave the B and the D, or the D and the B. So make sure you get a pattern down. If you just start randomly doing letters, right? I started the B, the C, next one to be the D. If you just start randomly doing these things and randomly writing the letters down, you will not get through them. I personally, and then the next one, start with the B and go through those, start with the C, go through those. I personally wouldn't do this method. I do a little different method. Just whatever you have to do, work out a pattern for 3 or 4 things. You can do every arrangement because it does come in kind of handy at times to be able to do that. If you don't have a pattern, if you just start guessing and you think you've got them all, you'll have missed one or doubled up on one. So look for those patterns when you start doing arrangements. Anyway, that's this for this question. That was number 11.